Hi there. Still got some rainbows here, but I'm just going to go ahead with it like it is and record. Well, I thought I was going to record that one. I guess not. All right, remember I said they were coming in twos. This one came right after the last written one, which I've already forgotten the name of. This is 1:29 a.m. on Monday, 5/21, the first one of that day, and the Mayan day was 12 monkey. Okay, this is nuts. It's 1:30 a.m. and here I am up doing this. Not that the clock means anything, it doesn't. Maybe it's that I haven't been this prolific in some time and got used to the slower pace of the journal's arrival. Now, I've already got 4 in the pipeline, and here I am with another one. Jeez. Well, part of it was webcam issues, which I had to take care of. And now, I know what a clean boot is, which is a new one for me. It wasn't so difficult, and it worked. But I don't feel like firing it up just now, so I write. I hope that'll work, but when living from heart, you have to be ready to go where it leads, so we'll see. Change is still the order of the day. It's funny. I've been talking about change for so long now, it seems like forever, and I always mean it. I say what I mean, and yet it keeps getting more intense. How does it do that? It's rather amazing, don't you think? Surely you're noticing it too. And if you're not, well, maybe your nose is a wee bit too close to the old grindstone. Maybe lift your head up a bit. The human race is surely changing. Are you one of those hoping that everyone will make the oncoming shift into higher dimension? Or do you believe that the bad guys must receive their comeuppance? There are many who still do, and it's an understandable view to hold. After all the destruction that's been wrought on this planet and her beautiful beings, it's understandable. But let's look at that honestly and from heart, okay? So go within, take just a moment and center. Take a deep breath or two and settle down in instead of down under the domination of mind. Just quietly in heart then. So, what part of us believes that the bad guys must be punished, must pay the price? Stay in heart. And what part of that belief is based on our own old beliefs? Some of those weeds not yet pulled up from our garden of belief. Most of us were threatened as children with punishment. So we internalize that. Let's pull it up now and look at it. See if we want to keep it. This for that, tit for tat. We were brought up to believe that was called fairness. But is it really? Is killing the killer really a useful answer? Where is its success record? How did it prove itself? You know, I don't care that much about the bodies we wear. If they go, then they do. It's not about death. It's about honor and justice and truth. Where do they lie? What part does punishment play? While we are wandering through our lovely belief garden, let's take a look at another set of plants that were put in way back when. Those that come from our religious upbringing. Most were brought up to believe in a somewhat vengeful God figure, one who could easily reward with heaven or punish with a hell for eternity. Scary stuff, especially for little impressionable children. So, how did we handle that? What beliefs did we plant? Let's take a look at them, but from a new angle. Let's set that version of God aside for a few moments. Don't worry, if it's yours, you can pick it up again right after the journal experience we're having together. Now, just for fun, let's look at a few of the same things in a vastly different way. Let's envision a God who is only love. The unconditional, real kind of love that's a bit rare to find on earth. Okay, now, why might that God have arranged things in such a way that there are multiple embodiments for lifetimes? What could be the purpose in that? For this God wouldn't punish. It's not in her. Instead of this arrangement being for karma, for payback for what we dished out in other lives, try this one on. When we do something in life that doesn't quite live up to our inner integrity, when we fall short of the mark for whatever reason, what might be the cause behind that? Why would we fail? As I look around, what I see is so many people in the sleeple state, or the sheeple, who are even more easily led. They're not evil. They're not mean. They're just not really there, not fully present. It's like they're somehow hypnotized into a light trance. So, they make a mistake. Let's say they overreact to someone or something, so they lash out, maybe hit someone. Now what? Well, why did they do that? Could it be due to, one, their heart not being open, and or two, them not finding their heart? Most of what I see happening is far more from ignorance than it is from what people call evil. No, I'm not talking about the Illuminati just yet, the powers that were. This is just the regular folks. So, what would this wonderful, loving, just God do in this case? She's not out to punish them. If I can see sleeple and ignorance at work, she can surely see even deeper into what's at work there. So their next lifetime gets set up, and in it, they will face the fruits of their actions in this one. But what's that about? The old God would say they were bad, so now they must pay. They must suffer for that. It balances the books. Well, shove that one out. Look again from heart. Here's what I see. I see people being lovingly set up in the most perfect ways to open their eyes and their hearts. I see the heart softening at work, for until they recognize themselves in the other, the ones they previously struck out at and harmed, well, they'll just keep doing that, harming themselves more. So instead, things are arranged with the greatest possible love, the divine sort. Things are set up to soften those hard hearts, not to break them, but to open them. How else to ever understand what another one suffers, but to take a real walk in his or her moccasins? Even in this life, in any one life, this is how the youngster, the teen, learns. You know you can't talk to the teens. They got to get their head bashed in a time or two. So, I see divine love at work, where others look through a different lens and they choose to see punishment and karma and that lot, just like they've been programmed. Just like with a child, it often takes a bit of tough love. And Source is certainly capable of that. Just like an addict of any kind must often dive so low as to hit bottom. And there is no one anywhere who can talk sense into them until then. So it is, my friends, with all of us. It's the old way of learning, but not really learning, of waking up. So, what do you think? Now, remember, too, to always stay in heart with me if you hope to really pick up what I'm offering here. It doesn't come from the head, and it can't be interpreted there. It's heart stuff. You'll just have to take that on faith for a bit, if that's your only choice, if you're not seeing it yet. What we see in life, how we see life altogether, is mostly a projection. We project, drawing it from our subconscious, our garden of belief. We project what we believe out on what we see. So we interpret life based on those beliefs. We don't realize how very much we're actually creating that. We take it for real. After all, we see it like that, so that's what it must be, right? Says the mind. Not. I say to distrust simply every belief. When and as we stick close to self and now, we stay out of the future and the past. The belief garden is of the past. How could it be any other way? And the future, well, that's our expectations. They take us there, just as far from now as the past. The view of life we see from heart is radically different. We see it with heart, not so much with our eyes. We see it with our inner sight, with heart vision, which is firmly anchored in now. It never leaves now. That's Kismet snoring, by the way. Do you have a pet peeve, for instance? Is there something that just can't fail to rile you up, to upset you? It's always something other people do, right? We see them or hear them do that or even hear of it, and it sets us off, and there we go. We may not come back down into our center for a good while. Well, let's look at that. Is it really out there? Is it really those other people doing that sets us off? I don't think so. Stop and center here and see if you can hear this. See how well you can hear this. There is nothing at all in what other people do that can upset you. Period. Nothing. Stay in heart, don't listen to mind. Why not? How could that be? Consider, there are 20 people who have the same exact experience, let's say at the same time, same place. Let's say they see an accident or a fight. You can bet there are 20 or even 21 different reports of it, and it will be seen radically differently by some of them. The accounts will most certainly disagree. Ask any police person or detective. Now look at that and see this. The power is not in the circumstances, in what happens, or they'd all see the same thing and feel the same way if the power was in the circumstances. It is in each person, in how they interpret it. The power is always in the person, always have been, though most give their power away, giving it over to the outer circumstances. Yet, if there were true power in circumstances, then like I said, the same circumstances would affect all 20 people the same way. Now, let's go back to the pet peeve thing and take a new look. If something is guaranteed to set me off every time, and of course the circumstances, the persons involved will differ each time, then the one common denominator in all of that must be me. So, why am I not looking inside for the origin of that? Yeah, I find that pretty strange. Stay in heart. Keep mind out. Just don't listen. You can listen to it later. Back down to heart. A pet peeve is no more than a way to blame life for something inside that hasn't been dealt with yet. It hasn't been owned and faced and processed. Faced, owned, and processed. Something lurks down inside where it feels too scary to look. So we refuse to own it. And when we do that, at some point, the natural result of us pushing it away is to push or project it onto others. But it's really not in them. It never was. Now, we've got to be careful here, for due to our immense power to create, the experience will feel totally real, as if it's truly their fault, the other guy. That's how it feels, 100%, and that can make us refuse to even consider that it could be an us all along. It just doesn't seem reasonable to mind. Hello. My friends, back into heart. I will call your attention. I will call to your attention that this is what the experience is like from mind's perspective. That's not the heart's way to blame another. Heart just knows better, so it doesn't engage in blame of any sort. You won't find it here. I'm yammering on a bit to give some a chance to absorb what I'm saying. For some, it's radically different than the way they're used to viewing it, so a bit of time can help. Projection is one of the most interesting things to wake up to on this journey into higher consciousness. It's simply shocking to discover that all the stuff we've blamed our neighbor and the world for, that it was in us all the while. It's quite a lot to take in, so it's best done in small doses. Don't push yourself. There are many videos that I don't watch all the way through the first time. I push pause, take breaks, go do something else. As we open more and more to love the self, we'll change our ways of doing things, of greeting life. No more will we be pushy, not with the self nor with others, not at all. We will realize that rudeness, the disrespect of pushing free will beings who have the right to make their own choices, is nuts. Who are we to think we know what's best for everyone else? Pretty arrogant, huh? There is also, and maybe first, the matter of mind pushing us around, which it does incessantly. Let's look at that. What is its origin? Where does that come from? Could it be childhood and the faulty programming laid down there? A walk through our garden of belief can show this up if we can just find our way in there, huh? Since it's in the subconscious, this can be a bit tricky. By remembering back, I'm sure we can recall the terrible pushiness of the adults in our lives. Just look around now. Everywhere you can see adults pushing children to do or not do this or that. Always pushing, demanding, seldom asking or inquiring or even talking, but only demanding. Well, what does that do to us, my friends? How does it scar us? What do the scars look like? Could it be this internal pushiness that mind is forever indulging in? And do we want it to continue? Do we want to be forever abused by our mind? You know how miserable, how upset it can make you feel, just like those little children everywhere. It is sleeple and sheeple parents and teachers who act this way. They are not cruel, nor even unkind. They are just hypnotized. They are not even truly present, though we see their body there, and they have the best of intentions. They think that's how it's done. Okay? No resentment. Stay in heart. Let us remain in heart as we view life this way. And sure, it hurts a bit, but in a very different way than we expected, than what we felt before. Now, our hurt comes from our beautiful softness, our tenderness for the dear children, and the oppression they all face at our absent behavior. There, but really not there at all. We also feel for those parents and teachers. We know they are really wonderful people too. Heck, we might have been them. Most of us were. In spite of how they may be absently acting, we know that in their heart of hearts they would not be this way if they were awake. We can clearly see how they are asleep, and there's not a darn thing we can do about it. And it hurts, but with a different sort of hurt than we're used to ever feeling before. So we feel tender ourselves and kind of hurt. We're surprised by this new way of seeing, of feeling. Let's stay with heart, though, as we look back at our own mind, at its perpetual abuse of us, at how we bear up under the burden of that. Now we can develop or find some tenderness inside for what we are enduring there. Can we do that? I bet we can. When looked at from heart, mind's behavior is clearly abusive. There's no other way to color it, my friends. It's often mean and cruel, even. Yet, we put up with it, don't we? Do you ever wonder why? Well, look back at your childhood. How much choice did you have as a child about the pushiness of the adults in your world? What would happen if you spoke up? Okay, take a moment to take that in. If you're in heart, and chances are you're really feeling that. Of course, you had no choice at all. You couldn't even protest without paying a nasty price. In my family, you couldn't even show by your expression on your face. You were helpless before the onslaught, weren't you? Learn to push pause here or quit reading if you need to, my friends. It's more than okay. It's you loving you. Take your time. Now, as you take that in and take your time with it, allow yourself to feel all of the feelings that come up. There is only one successful way I've found to process feelings, my friends, and that's straight through the middle of them. It does only short-term good to try to avoid them in any way, such as repression. They just come back up, but even stronger. So do be willing to feel. It won't last that long. On the other side of the feelings is relief. Surprising, often uplifting relief. In all feelings, there's a message hidden away. Until that's unpacked and looked at, the feelings will persist, guaranteed. So if you've been running away from your feelings, you may want to reconsider in light of this. I found that though it hurts, it works. Life's going to hurt anyway. Making it work, hey, that's the deal. All right, back to looking at our own self-talk. I wonder, do you see it in a slightly different light now? I bet you do. That is, if you took this walk in heart with me, if you had the experience. If you're only viewing and understanding the words from mine, then you're not yet willing to face what's inside. And that's fine too. Hear me. It's simply what is. Totally cool. But it's also good to have a look at that. And maybe wonder why. Why is it you can't seem to let yourself feel your deep inner feelings? And how long will you choose to run away from them? No rush. Just be willing to look, that's all. So, the abusive self-talk. What to do with it? Nothing. This is a road of being, not of doing. The doing will do itself. That sounds crazy to the mind. I know, but that's the way of it. So do make room for that. What we do, if anything, is just to look at things. So we watch and observe the mind at work. We start actually listening. Watching how it speaks to us, the tone it uses, what it says. And that's enough. Why is it enough? Well, I don't want to take your fun away, so I'm going to let you discover this for yourself. I will say that heart vision actually changes things. When we're brave enough to really have a look at something, we'll know we're really moving on when we're ready to look underneath it to see what might be causing that. So look at what it is first and just keep looking, watching. You might even note down or journal some of what you're seeing, or heck, all of it. It can truly be instructive. Later, if not now, you may surprise yourself. Then, once we're comfortable with that, we're ready to look underneath. Everything springs from something. Those flowers grow on certain plants. So when we're ready, we look to what plants those are, when and how they were planted, and by whom. As we look to that, we'll find ourselves quite naturally doing a lot of weeding there in the belief garden. It will just happen, friends, when our intent is just to watch, to observe from within heart, things just start to change. As I said, things will just do themselves, so there's no need at all to set out to do anything but look. And the rest will just happen. You will see. Now, what a journey this has been. We've done a bit of wandering, but somehow there's a thread through it all holding it together. It's been fun for me. I hope it has been for you. And as usual, the journals show the change. I hope you're journaling too, even just a bit. Because if you don't, then there are phases and stages of who you are, of how you're manifesting, that will go and be gone forever. And you won't have this lovely evidence that they were ever here and that you moved on. Blessings and namaste.